Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
And this is Ellen coming to you from the beautiful island of St. Bart's, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Sitting in my office at Port Washington, this is Dennis. And on this edition of Light Talk, we discuss Gobo sizing. Should we use A or B? What if the theater cannot pay the designer's final fee? Plus, another PSA from No More 10 out of 12s, all on today's Light Talk.
And this is David coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers
and Sister.
That's right, Ellen. Well, welcome everyone to episode 448. And before we get started today, I want to thank the family for covering last week's terrific interview with Justin Townsend. I had to miss it, unfortunately, because Snoot and I were moving some very important legal documents from her former Santa Clarita residence to Light Talk West, the beach house in Long Beach. I found some strange documents from John Bolton and Jeffrey Epstein in these boxes. I had no idea that Snoot was involved with those cases.
Any photos?
And she's had them in the bathroom all these years?
Let's just say that I peeked and took a few photos of some of the more salacious documents that may mysteriously appear in Rolling Stone magazine next week. But in case you did not listen to last week's show, which was fantastic, be sure to check it out, episode 447. And speaking of that episode, Dennis, you have heard a little bit of feedback about that interview with Justin.
I had 3 people actually text or email me saying how wonderful the show.
3 people, that's the entire Light Talk audience.
Very funny.
3, right?
No, that was the audience from the Faroe Islands.
Ah, yes, that's right. We do have 3 in the Faroe Islands.
They're waiting for one of Justin's shows to tour to the Faroe Islands, and they want to know when it's going to happen.
Don't think it's going to happen.
Interestingly enough, I was doing a light hang this week with a young Broadway electrician who works with Justin, who was doing the install for Batboy that they're doing currently at, I guess it's City Center, the Encore series that he was discussing. And she just went on and on saying how wonderful Justin is and how great he is to work with. And several people, 2 other people that I talked with said it was just a solid, honest interview that provided a great deal of insight into what a Broadway designer feels and thinks. And normally we kind of don't go down that road. And that was very nice of Justin to open up for us. We need to get that honesty, I think, a lot more, even though we are a humorous type show. One of the things Justin said, we were talking about shows. But by the way, I had the privilege of working with Justin for a few days when he was doing Moulin Rouge, and it was an incredible experience. And I walked out of the theater just emboldened and enlivened, and you can tell by the way he speaks that he must impart an incredible amount of not only knowledge but enthusiasm and energy to his students, which is really wonderful to hear and see. But it was a great interview, and everybody should go back and listen to it. To be honest, I listened to it twice after it aired, driving to work, and there were things that were said that I missed, and it was a really good interview. I won't go on and on and on. People should just listen. One of the things that I did this weekend, though, that I want to tout the praise of, Justin gave credit to Lear de Bussonet for an early director for doing a lot of the work that he did early on and getting him involved with Alex Timbers. And I just happened to see the Broadway revival of Ragtime this weekend, which was directed by Lear de Bussonet. And the staging was just spectacular at the Vivian Beaumont Theater at Lincoln Center. And the production was very good. Most assuredly will get several Tony nominations and definitely at least one win for one of the actors who was just extraordinary. I won't go into it anymore, but the scenic design was by Broadway professional David Corrins, who we know from several other productions.
I've worked with David.
Have
on
you?
several shows.
Wonderful designer.
Yeah, he's very good. He's very good. Very
And,
nice person,
and
too.
I'm sure you probably have been to the Lincoln Center stage. They do a lot of shows there for the last, 30 years or so. It's a tough space, and a three-quarter thrust, and we didn't have the greatest seats. We were up in the balcony, but everything was perfect. Anyway, enough of that. One of the things I wanted to bring out in more of news, I wanted to talk about the Emmy Awards last week, but our interview with Justin was far more important, so I skipped over it. But the Daytime Emmy Awards were the week before last, and I'm not going to talk about all the awards, but I do want to mention the Emmys that were awarded for Outstanding Lighting Direction. And our friend Bob Barnhart was one of the nominations for the Drew Barrymore Show, which he designed with Dave Grill. And the lighting director on the show is Sean Kaufman. Also nominated was Days of Our Lives, the soap opera, lighting designer David Meager and lighting director Billy Yakes. Also nominated was The View, lighting designer and lighting director James Gallagher, who's a good friend of mine, and I worked with him on The View a few years ago. Young and the Restless was also nominated. The lighting directors for that soap opera, Edward Burgess, Chuck Conklin, and Cameron Sands. But the winner of the Emmy for Outstanding Lighting Direction in Daytime was The Kelly Clarkson Show. Once more, I think this is probably the third year they've won the Emmy. The lighting designer is Darren Langer of DC Lighting, and the lighting director is John Daniels. If you haven't seen the show, it's really well done. They shoot it in New York's NBC Broadcast Center, and it's an excellent show. One of the things that I don't understand, the Emmy Awards, the rules changed a couple years ago in daytime, and it just seems strange that you have soap operas competing against talk shows, competing against other shows that are up. It just seems awkward. In the art direction and scenic design, the nominees were the Drew Barrymore Show, the Kelly Clarkson Show, Live with Kelly and Mark, the talk show, The Young and the Restless, a soap opera, and a documentary called The Mysteries of the Terracotta Warriors, which actually won the Emmys.
Good.
Oh, have you seen it? It's definitely worth seeing. It's an excellent documentary.
I prefer that to The Young and the Restless. Do people actually still watch soap operas?
There's only 4 of them on the air. All the soaps used to have their own categories, and 40 years ago when I was doing soaps, there were 15 of them on the air. Now there's only 4, so it's hard not to get nominated.
Well, maybe that's why they're mixed in with other shows.
Yeah, because there's no competition.
Anyway, Netflix did a documentary, and
cool.
somehow or other it was eligible for all the daytime categories, and it walked away with a number of awards.
Great. So, Dennis, are you done yet? We're halfway done with the show. Because we just cut 2 questions. So anyway, Dennis, I hope you still have a voice left because you have the first question of the day.
Okay, the first question is from Izzy in Washington, D.C., who says, I'm having some custom gobos made for my Licos, and I was asked whether I wanted them in A size or B size, not Dennis size.
Oh.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Rim shot.
Izzy says, I always get B size, but I don't really know the difference or why I would require A size instead of B. Please explain. Thank you. I'm sure you guys in the theater, what do you use at SMU, Steve?
Whatever fits.
That's right. The gates are different. They're different sizes, and you put whatever one fits. Right?
It's interesting because when I was at Penn State for my MFA and my first experiences with Gobos, they only had B size template holders. Which back in the day, the reason was the B size fits every fixture. And back when we were dealing with Altman 360Qs or CCT units or whatever unit was the prevailing fixture in the 1960s and 70s and 80s, B size Gobo holders fit everything. But usually, in most places that I went to, that was the holder that they had. So that's what I always ordered the size for. But in the last several years, I bounced around to A and B because several people have both. The big difference to remember is that the A-size Gobo is bigger. It's a 100 millimeter Gobo on the outside diameter, and that larger surface area supports greater detail than the smaller B-size Gobos. That allows for more intricate designs and more detailed images. However, even though that's the theory, and I'm sure you guys have found the same thing, I've always seen a little bit of loss of sharpness in the A size because when you have that much surface area, you make the Gobos a little bigger, and I find that the detail gets lost in the edges of the image area. The other nice thing about the A size, because they're larger, is that there's better heat dissipation. The common mentality about B size is you only use it for simple patterns or basic breakups, whether it's like an amorphous or David, your favorite, the construction Gobo. But I find that you get a better edge focus and better image definition with the B size. And I pretty much use B size Gobos all the time. That's pretty much where I come from. David, what do you feel?
I feel the same way. I get the largest Gobo that will fit in the gate of the instrument without it cutting off any part of the image.
Half the time you get A-size Gobos, you end up having to pull out the scissors and cut them down anyway. Remember years ago, the Great American Market, and anybody's Gobo at the time, they always came in square format, and you had to cut them. And then David Hershey came out with his own line.
Yeah, they came in circles.
They came in circles. I think the important thing to realize when you have an A-size Gobo, I find that people try and fill the whole image area that's inside the circle of the holder, which is, as I said, 100 millimeter. And when you make it that big, the edges start to get fuzzy, and then you need to end up putting a donut in the fixture, essentially a small circle about the size of a golf ball in a color frame holder that then helps define the image better at the focal plane. Source 4 has the, I forget the actual real name for it, but it's a high definition lens that I usually specify when I know I'm going to be doing a lot of Gobos. But let's face it, the kind of Gobos, I was all about Gobos for years. I did a show once at a university project. There might have been 100 lights. There were 120 Gobos. I mean, just for the fun of it, but I love texture. These days, the only time I use Gobos is when it's a logo or a branding thing that you need, because it was a trendy thing that kind of wore off, and a lot of times they're overused. Let's face it, it's an overused thing.
I've been through that too, Dennis. They talk about texture and all that. It's nice to have a little texture, but sometimes it's best not to see it and just to feel it. And that's where you always see them going wrong. But a lot of that, what you're talking about has to do with the quality of the lighting fixture too. I mean, you're not going to see a Robot Juliet lighting fixture with that problem.
That's true.
It's just one of those things, it's just an optical situation. So Timothy from Portland asks, I am working for a small-time theater company which is in serious financial straits. We are in the middle of Tech Week, and I was told that ticket sales are dismal and that they may not be able to make my final design fee payment on opening night. Should I continue to work on the show or just walk?
But I have some questions for Timothy here, though. What percentage of his fee is the final payment?
Well, they usually are on thirds.
Okay, so it's a final third. Okay.
You get the first third when you sign the contract. You get the second third when you deliver the light plot and the paperwork and the shop order and things like that. And then you get the final third either on opening night or on first dress rehearsal or final dress rehearsal.
Well, I wonder if they would defer the payment in case they ever make the money back. And I guess the other question is, does he ever want to work there again?
Yeah, that's the big question. First of all, you never walk on a show unless you are being personally harmed or you're being abused. And that's the only time I would say that you should do that. If it's like they're running out of money or maybe there is an accident and the show has to go into 4 more days of text or whatever. If you can make it work, because you may be doing more damage to your career by just saying, I'm going to leave, I'm going to get out of here, because of financial situations. I would say if indeed they are a shaky company and just finish the show off, make the show look good. And if you work with them again, that's great. It's your choice to say yes or no. But I'll tell you one thing, if you finish that show off, they're going to remember that you didn't desert them. And theater is that type of profession where it's a company and we're a team and we're all in it together. Now, again, if this is some sort of shady producers, then that's one thing. But this sounds like listen, it's tough to get an audience. It's tough.
Right.
And who knows what the situation is with the show or what the theater company is going through. A lot of theater companies are closing nowadays. And that's something that everyone's got to realize.
If it's a nonprofit company, can you donate that part of your fee and get a tax deduction?
Yeah, absolutely. But, I don't know how much money back you're going to get in tax, but still the most important thing is that you don't go out on bad terms. Right.
And it also might be a director that's in the same boat you are, but that you could work with again someplace else.
That's my point, exactly. You're going to score points with the director. You're not going to score points. I hate to say it so callously, score points, but you're not going to if you just leave for financial reasons.
Well, also the question says they may not be able. And it's not written in stone yet. There are a couple small theaters here in Dallas that they pay in thirds. And it's just exactly what David says. The only difference is because they are small theater companies, that final third is paid on closing night. And that way they have had 2 or 3 weeks of ticket sales to get there. And again, these are theaters that are offering, $750, $1,000. So you kind of understand what you're getting into. I agree with David. I think I would finish the show and I would volunteer. Look, let's make that final paycheck closing night if we can do it. Give them a little breathing room too, because if you walk away, you're not getting your money at all.
Right.
So, and if you have to wait a month, maybe you're going to get it, maybe you're not. But you're closing the door if you walk out. They're certainly not going to pay you.
Just throwing my 2 cents in, I think, David, you're 100% right. I have done an inordinate amount of shows over the years that I wanted to just walk right out because it was just painful and aggravating and the people were nasty, whatever. I've never been in what I would call an abusive situation, but I'm one of those type people, when I commit to something, I'm going to see it through all the way. And otherwise, if you don't, your reputation is going to be hurt in the process. I think it becomes a negotiation factor where you do something in lieu of payment, or you barter, or like Ellen said, do a tax deduction for your time that ultimately you can write off your taxes and realize a certain amount of money from that. But it doesn't say whether it's a union or a non-union situation.
Well, I don't think this is the union because it's a small company.
You know what I'm saying? The union would take care of it for them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you had a union contract, they would. But again, they're going to tell you to try to do something that doesn't ruin your career, They're smart too. Hey, listen, maybe you need some chickens in the house. We have a bunch of ducks we could pay designers with. and that works out great. Seriously, Steve's idea is a great idea. Say, hey, how about if you pay me on the closing date when you have a chance to get some? And they could say, yeah, we'll try. But at least you were being flexible and not saying, oh, you guys are a bunch of losers. You're going to run out of money. I'm out of here. You don't want to be that person.
Or negotiate for the next show. I mean, there's always things that you can do to get some sort of remuneration. You are listening to Light Talk, and today, Light Talk is sponsored by
a public service announcement from No More 10 out of 12s. You know the drill. It's the third day of tech. You have had 3 hours of sleep and exactly 1 bite of an apple since dawn. You slump at the tech table trying to remember, why did you not go to law school? And then you feel it. The air shifts. It's a little too quiet. Your assistant has mysteriously moved 6 seats away. You glanced across the room, and it hit you like a runaway fly line. You have pissed off the stage manager. But how can you be sure? Let's review the signs. The look. You know it when you see it, that piercing, soul-freezing glare from across the house, or worse, the slow head turn with one eyebrow raised, often followed by a deathly silence or a curt, clipped, "Thank you." Pro tip, you are not being thanked. The call book slam. You hear it before you see it. That extra firm closing of the call book. Bonus points if it's followed by a long, slow sigh that says, "I could have been a doctor." The God Mike Smite. You mess up. The cue is wrong. The actors are confused. Suddenly the God Mike descends like thunder from Mount Olympus. "Let's all remember we have limited time, please." Translation: I'm speaking to you, pork chop, and you are on thin spike tape. The timed pause. You suggest a cue change, a tiny one, very reasonable. The stage manager takes a pause. Not a long pause, just long enough for you to wonder if your name is now being scratched off the post-show drink invitation list. Then you hear, "Copy that," and the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. And finally, the coffee withheld moment. There's coffee. You smell it. You smell the stage manager's coffee. You smell the AD's coffee. The same goes for sound, projection, costume, etc., etc. Everyone has coffee. You do not. The stage manager made a coffee run. She looks at you dead in the eye and says, "Oh, I thought you said you were good." You didn't say that. You are not good. You have no coffee. You have been a very bad boy. Just remember, tech is eternal. The follow spot will never hit that dead pickup from blackout. Actors wander off their marks for snacks mid-cue adjustment. Your wireless headset will betray you during a personal conversation, and through it all, the stage manager silently watches with the memory of an elephant and the soul of a vengeful librarian. The stage manager is the god of the booth, ruler of the headset realm, keeper of all cues. And if you anger them, well, accept your fate. This has been a public service announcement from No More 10 out of 12s.
And now, back to Late Talk.
Well, the sound of those sex-starved iguanas, monkeys, and ducks running around Light Talk Central tell us that once again it's time for Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about low-angle lighting for broadcast face light. So, how did we come up with this? Well, earlier this week I was watching Morning Joe on MSNBC, and when they went to a wide shot of the anchor's desk, I observed a circular light fixture in the center on top of the plexiglass desk. So I asked Lumen brother Dennis if that was just a scenic decoration, eye candy, or perhaps actually serving as a low fill light. That led to a fun discussion of uplights and chin lights for television talent that I believe is worth talking to our listeners about. So Dennis, do you want to tell us a few of your tricks and why that light was there?
The one thing to remember is on television, it's all about the close-up. And think about your makeup mirrors or any makeup mirror in your bathroom where the light goes not only overhead, but sometimes along the sides and in many cases underneath so that you have a complete wash of front light. In television studios, film studios, everything is coming from above and there's no fill, as it were, from below. The film cinematographers a million years ago used to use a catch light, eye light they'd call it, some sort of uplight right under the camera, just to fill in the shadows under the chin, the shadows that happen in deep set eye sockets, or if somebody has what we call helmet hair and the hair wraps around their face with shadows on either side of their cheeks from the hair, you need something low to fill in that shadow detail that's caused by the higher angled lights. Our friend Bob Barnhart, who we mentioned before, his name of his company is 22 Degrees because his preference is to put key lights at that exact angle to help fill in the shadows a little more. Normally in studios, they're a lot higher, sometimes as high as 40 degrees. So you always want to put something underneath. Years and years ago, I used to mount, following the film techniques, I used to mount lights under the cameras and for Barbara Walters and Hugh Downs, and that helped a lot. But then cameras started going further back, and let's face it, a little small eye light like that dissipates pretty quickly. And you need to be very cautious about how bright it is. Otherwise, you're going to end up with the what they call the Bela Lugosi look, where it's, you know what I'm saying, and you've seen it. You've seen it over and over, that the people use a chin light or a catch light, and it's way too bright. And it does the opposite effect. It makes somebody look like they're out of a horror movie. Or even worse, like a doe on the highway with the headlights coming right at it. It needs to be used with care and delicacy. So what you saw was a subtle version. I believe the scenic company ClickSpring designed that set, and they like to embrace lighting services like that. So they provided an uplight and an interesting scenic detail on their desk, which also serves as a little bit of camera candy. But most of the time when I have things like that fabricated, I like to bury it inside the desk. And depending on the show or how it's used, it might just be a simple channel of LED tape, often in 3200 Kelvin and 5600 Kelvin, so you could blend it to the color temperature of the room. And if the money allows and the budget allows, I would put different fixtures for each anchor, especially if you go into any affiliate or CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox studios around the country for the last 10 years, just about every anchor desk out there is going to have some sort of uplight or chin light just to fill in those details because the anchors expect that. They want to have that a little bit of beauty light. And I even make it, if the color temperature in the studio is, let's say, 5,000 degrees Kelvin, I'll make that uplight warmer so that it has a little bit of warmer accents underneath in the shadow detail.
Do you ever put any color in it?
Sometimes I'll put in what's called cosmetic highlight, which is a peachy frost. Many times you end up with a little green cast in pigments of the flesh tones, especially in people of color. When I did the Oprah Winfrey Show years ago, which was around the time when Roscoe first came out with that cosmetic highlight, which is a pink frost, I use that in all the lights because it's basically a minus green. You're adding pink to the lighting fixtures to minus green the lights. And over the years, I used to do that in uplights and chin lights. But these days, especially with products from Environmental Design, which is one of the many LED companies out there, you can tone it. And much like stage lights and broadcast lights, where you can have RGB, A, W, or mint, you can now get LED tape that's RGB, AW, W, cool white, warm white, and you can blend it to whatever color you want, including putting in a little bit of minus green. The options are wonderful out there now. And if I'm doing a project, let's say at the ABC network, they have an electric shop there run by an incredibly smart and talented gentleman like Daniel Cantor, who fabricates some of the wildest things for me on curved desks, odd-shaped amoebic desks. I'll even fabricate linear strip lights and put them in the set, so when people are walking around the set, we're basically lighting with LED tape as opposed to broadcast fixtures. There's all sorts of things that can be done.
Yeah. It's interesting because when I was at the Grammys this past year, at the celebrity tables out front, they actually had those lights around those tables so that when they were shooting the celebrities, they got a lot of the uplight from
Sure.
that. But, it's so funny because like 2 days after I asked this question to my family, I was watching Morning Joe, and for some reason, they allowed David Ignatius on the set without doing any makeup on him. And he had a comb over, and one of the hair strands was coming straight down his forehead like this. His hair was all out of whack. It looked like he just got out of bed. And I asked Dennis, I said, how does this happen? Because like 4 minutes later, they cut back to him and his hair's beautiful and all that because somebody came on the set and finally did his makeup for him. But I know it's like 6 a.m. in the morning there, in New York when the show comes on, but you care so much about the lighting, but then the makeup comes on and it's like a total disaster.
Maybe the stylist got stuck in the subway.
Well, but anybody could have gone over and just done this to the guy, Like
they just didn't expect him to come in after an all-night drunk.
Yeah,
and
well, that's what he looked like. But he...
I'm guessing there was no stylist. They've been eliminating positions on these shows all the time. I'm just surprised the stage manager or floor manager didn't help the guy out.
Maybe they did. Maybe the floor manager took a comb out and combed his hair.
Yeah, because that's all he needed, And
it looked like he had been to the gym and just gotten off the treadmill.
It's interesting wrapping up that uplight, chim light thing. As I said, I started doing that 40 years ago for Barbara Walters based on uplights that I would do on soap operas stolen from films that they've been using in films from the 40s. But I do the same thing even on political events. If I'm doing a presidential debate, especially in the preliminary debates where you might have up to 10 podiums, I'll have a bank of 10-degree Lecos all the way in the back of the theater behind the audience that'll be focused on each one of those candidates shooting essentially under the cameras and over the audience head at a very low angle just to fill in their eyes to help them out.
So how did you do this past year's debate with Trump and Harris? Because didn't you have some special uplights for those? Because they look great.
Yeah, buried in the anchor desk, which wasn't that far from the lecterns where David Muir and Lindsay Davis were sitting. I had uplights there, and they were hidden in the desk, so you never saw them on the reverse camera angles.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the candidates.
That's what I'm talking about. They were hidden in the desk pointing at the lecterns.
Oh, wow. So they were about 15 feet away.
Yeah, it was about that. Away. Yeah. As long as you hide them, you can always... what I usually end up doing, again, stealing from our friends in the film industry, there's got to be a camera somewhere that's shooting the lectern that Kamala Harris or Donald Trump are at. I can usually find some place around that camera to bury a very small mini Leco of some sort or something that'll do a nice throw for 20 feet. But it's very important. Many years ago when I lit the Ellen DeGeneres talk show in L.A., I put a whole row of strip lights on the stage in front of the cameras in front of her. And, there's a reason that stages always had footlights. And that's essentially all it was footlights. It's just... you need to be very judicious about how bright or how much you use it and blend the top light, the front light, the side light. All of the angles need to be blended so that one doesn't predominate or look unnatural.
It's interesting that you mentioned stage because stage lighting, as you said, with footlights, have been using that for years, but also in a lot of other situations we use uplights. And it's easier to do if you're in a proscenium theater than if you're in a thrust theater or an arena theater, because those lights are going to be seen by the audience if it's in a thrust or arena, which is why, when you're dealing with lighting for different stage forms, it's really important to understand what your limitations may be.
As you noted, you weren't sure if it was actually a light for the talent or camera candy. Because years past, you could never put a light source like that on a desktop. It would burn out the guns in the camera. They didn't understand that kind of bright light. These days, with everything digital, it's not that big a deal. And with all the video monitors and LED walls and everything, these sets are made up of light sources everywhere. I mean, I've actually taken studios that have video wall surrounds, and if the talent is looking at a video wall that's not on camera, I'll have that whole video wall converted to television white, which is basically whatever the color temperature of white I'm using. And I'll use that as the light source that's lighting the actual talent.
You know, it's funny because this all goes back to like a candle in the center of a table in a restaurant, which is of its own providing some nice soft uplight to make you look a little better.
You are 100% right, Ellen.
I designed several restaurants when I used to do a lot more architectural lighting, and that was the secret. And that's what I always tell restaurant owners. I said, what you need is some sort of a light source right in the middle of the candle, and never use downlights above your customers. A real candle, because what the candle does not only lights the low angle face, but it moves. And that flame moving will subtly change the shadows in their eyes, on their face, and you're engaged. But the only problem with that is nowadays, most people, when they go on dates, they're not looking at each other. They're looking at their phones.
Well, there's a nice uplight.
And most of the candles are LED flicker lights.
If whatever works. I don't care if they're LED flicker lights, as long as it moves a little bit, it's just got to be very subtle. So that is really the key.
Some of those LED flicker lights, and they're using them a lot now in restaurants in Manhattan, where it's an LED light in the center of the table.
Right.
They're pretty damn nice.
Yeah,
and it's remarkable how that technology has changed, and there's no wires or anything. They just charge them up at the end of the night, and it's pretty slick. I mean, the technology has changed everything.
Right. And some of them, they used to be like hard plastic, and now some of them are actually soft wax with the LED in the middle, so they look darn real.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool.
Yep.
I remember when those first LED candles came out for Phantom of the Opera, when they all came out of the floor through the fog.
Sewers of Paris, yeah.
Every opera I did after that, people say, can we get those lights? Can we get those lights? I said, yes, as a matter of fact, you can. They're expensive, but yes, we can get those lights.
Was that Lemaitre? Lemaitre was the company?
I thought the first they came from City Theatrical, too.
They did come from City Theatrical. Lemaitre did all the fog machines. Lemaitre is the only company I use for haze and fog. They're fantastic. Absolutely,
yeah, they are.
Fantastic company. All right, well, Steve has our last question of the day.
William in Cleveland writes, when I'm in the light lab, I can accomplish Rembrandt lighting easily. Every time I try it on stage, the actor gets all washed out. Why does this happen? Well, if you don't know what Rembrandt lighting is, it is a dramatic type of lighting that you see a lot in portraits. And the idea is that one side of the face is lit, and then there's a little bit of a triangle of light underneath the opposing eye on the cheek, on the shadow side of the face. So, one main source of light on the subject. That's the first step. The second step is it's about 45 degrees off axis. Remember, Stanley McCandless is up and out at 45? Well, there's that 45 to the side. The difference is, and actually Dennis touched on this, the height of that light is not at 45. It's slightly above eye level. So maybe it's leaning closer to that 22-degree angle coming in, and it's slightly angled down. The other trick with Rembrandt lighting is that, and why photographers use it, is once they position that light and put that person in that light, they can then say, move your head a little bit to the left, move it a little bit to the right, look up, look down. They can really manipulate that person because they're sitting in a chair. So I'm sure you can do Rembrandt lighting in the studio, and you're probably doing it like that. But once you move it into a kind of a live dynamic show on stage, and people are moving around, and you're all of a sudden making things brighter or darker or bringing in light, banging it in at 75% on the fill side and full on the key side, you're destroying everything that Rembrandt lighting does. So it's just the dickens to do it. You have to find the opportunity, that right moment to do it. And then you can really craft it. Maybe your Rembrandt lighting is in, Hedda Gabler, where she is burning the script in the fireplace. Maybe your Rembrandt lighting is Juliet on the balcony. But you need people kind of anchored to where they're going to be, and you need to be very careful. And that sometimes goes out the window in a theater production if you're not careful. What about you guys? Rembrandt lighting. Why is it working in the studio and falling apart on stage?
Years ago, when I was younger and thought all I wanted to do was art, I had done some Rembrandt lighting on a soap opera, and the producer yelled down from the back row of the control room, "Dennis, what the hell is that? This lighting is terrible. What'd you see, an Alfred Hitchcock film festival this week?" And I said, "Oh, no, this is Rembrandt lighting." And she said, "Great, keep it at the museum. I want them lit the way I want them lit."
Keep it at the museum. I love it.
It's a T-shirt. It's the Light Talk T-shirt.
Keep it at the museum. Light Talk. Keep them at the museum.
So some people just don't appreciate that shadow on the left or right side, depending on what you choose. So,
well, it's hard to do that in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown.
Right. Well, isn't what you're discussing, it's called chiaroscuro, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And it's got a lot of contrast, which may be harder to achieve on the stage.
It's not. You could do single point lighting. I do it all the time, from stage left, from a shin kicker or head high or whatever. And you get a really sharp shadow on one side, nothing on the other, which really only works when you're doing proscenium theater, by the way.
And we're also going down the garden path, as Ellen suggests. We're going down that garden path of film noir also.
Yeah, I love lighting like that. And that's how I light shows. And if it calls for it, then you do it. But again, like I just said, if you're doing this in a thrust or in an arena, you're going to need a little fill light come from the other side, or else 2/3 of your audience ain't going to see anything. They're going to see silhouettes of actors on stage, and you don't want that. So that's what's
and that's why you and Dennis get all 3 checks.
Yeah, that's right. I get all 3 checks.
The important thing, though, is the words that you said, if it calls for it.
Right.
Let's face it, we're all telling a story with lighting. If you ever see 2020, the Friday night ABC show with David Muir and Deborah Roberts, they like to get a little more dramatic. And when I had designed that, if you look at it on Friday nights, there's a certain Rembrandt quality to it because they want it to be more dramatic. And most of the stories are all crime stories of some sort, and they want that to enhance the story. And you can get away with it, but it's very rare on those type of shows. It's more of a film and cinematic technique that has, even though you'll see it on so much of the artwork in the museum, especially in 15th, 16th century art, it's not something that's appreciated in the television world.
Well, it depends. There's some television shows that use very dramatic lighting, like
Game of Thrones.
The Game of Thrones, parts of Breaking Bad, Severance. There's a lot of that type of lighting in Severance. So it's I wouldn't just say because it's on TV, it's going to be kind of like flatly lit. The good cinematographers are out there and good lighting directors, and they're making it look very interesting and very dramatic. I must say, I think the lighting on good television series over the past 15 years has dramatically improved.
It has.
To where it's now film quality and very artistic.
We were talking about that a couple of weeks ago, apropos of our conversation of the series The Gilded Age, which uses an incredible amount of Rembrandt-style lighting, but sometimes the audience reacts to it like, wow, this is just too dark.
Well, yeah, we talked about that on the show. We had an entire half a show about it being too dark, about the Game of Thrones, the Long Night episode where no one could see anything because the art direction and cinematographers were saying that was the idea. We wanted to film it in actual natural light, and because you don't see anything in the dark, so that's why you can't see anything. But it's a television show. You got to see something. You're telling a story. That was so frustrating. But that's a whole nother. We already talked about that.
Yeah.
That's why Bobby Danger always reaches for a mirror ball.
Speaking of Bobby Danger, will he make an appearance at LDI?
I don't know. I don't know if Bobby's going to be there or not, but I'm certainly looking at Louis Hartman and David Belesko and a whole new series on the old ways are the best ways.
I think that's wise because Bobby Danger reached its natural conclusion last year.
I think so, too. I think we brought it to an end.
You don't want to jump the shark with Bobby Danger. All right. Well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tell us that once again you've spent another morning listening to us on Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website at lighttalk.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. That way you not miss a second of Light Talk Insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you do decide to litigate, you will have to deal with me, Snoot from the Snoot Group. And don't get it twisted. Just because I married one of these losers does not mean I will go easy on you. So don't with me.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers
And Sister.
Coming to you from Long Beach, California, the Lone Star State, St. Bart's, and Port Washington, New York.
and be sure to join us next week when we talk about more lighting shenanigans and serve you even more of our casserole of nonsense.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we will see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Bye-bye.
Toodles.
Bye.